Let me tell you something you already know. The world ain't all sunshine and rainbows. It's a very mean and nasty place, and I don't care how tough you are, it will beat you to your knees and keep you there permanently if you let it. You, me, or nobody is gonna hit as hard as life. But it ain't about how hard you hit. It's about how hard you can get hit and keep moving forward. How much you can take and keep moving forward. That's how winning is done.
Welcome to Successful Dropout. This podcast is for the outliers, the innovators, the rebels, those that dare to dream and act on their dreams. I'm your host, Kylan Ginger. Join me as we find out what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. So I just finished reading The War of Art by Steven Pressfield. In the first few chapters of that book, the author talks about fear and resistance in an extremely compelling way that I've never heard of before, and it completely shifted my perspective on those two topics. Reading that book gave me a new belief system or a new lens with which I could see the world through in regards to how I react towards things I'm afraid of and the resistance that I face when I undertake anything new. I actually attribute reading that book with my decision to go skydiving just recently here and do my first jump ever solo by myself. Now I'm actually hooked on the sport, and it was one of the best, top experiences of my life. All that to say, I read this book through Audible.com, and I've discovered that consuming books in audio format is a lot more efficient for the busy kind of life that I lead. Probably for the same reasons you listen to podcasts. I can listen during my morning routine, while I drive, while I do laundry, while I do any sort of manual labor, really anything monotonous that doesn't require too much mental focus. And I can just zone out to these books, consume all this value, and I'm a better person because of it. Audible.com, and especially their app, makes it easy to download and listen to books on the go, and pricing is really reasonable, guys, as well. I currently pay about $22 a month for 2 book credits, which allow me to purchase any 2 books per month that I want. That's $11 per book you spend, and most books are priced higher than that, so it's very cost effective. But the best part is that when you sign up for the first time, you get your first book for free. And if for some reason it's not for you, you can also just cancel your membership at any time, no questions asked. So if you're new to Audible, you can take advantage of this opportunity and get your first book completely free, and then you can cancel if you just don't like it. So go to successfuldropout.com/book if you want to get your first book for free through this podcast. And guys, to be 100% upfront and honest, I get a small commission when you do this. You know me, I would run Successful Dropout for free forever if that was the only option, but it certainly helps us out to get some income from the show, and that money goes right back into the show in a lot of different ways. I would also never, ever, ever recommend something to you guys that I don't personally believe in, because honestly, I love you guys, I really do, and I care about you guys. But I do believe in Audible.com. I've been using their services since 2014, and it's just great. So again, go to successfuldropout.com/book to sign up and get your first book for free. You can also see my personal library and reading stats there on that page, but it's at successfuldropout.com/book. What is up, Successful Dropouts? Get stoked, because today on the show we have Hillary Harshman. Hillary is a writer from Walla Walla, Washington, who loves saving money, as do I. After earning her bachelor's degree for under $10,000 from Thomas Edison State University, she decided to share the resources cultivated and researched during her degree journey by writing College Without the Campus, a guide to credit by exam learning for students of all ages. Currently, she enjoys running a jewelry and supplies shop on Etsy and working for her family's heating and cooling business. So, Hillary, that's the intro I have for you, but tell us a little bit more about yourself and what you do.
Hi, Kylan, and thank you so much for having me on your show.
Absolutely.
You know, my current days kind of involve a blend of entrepreneurship and still learning, and time with family and friends. So what I do kind of evolves, but currently I'm taking time to share some of the tips that I learned on how to get a degree. If you want to maybe veer off the normal 4-year route going on the campus, and you want to take some time for learning outside the country and then come back and demonstrate that learning somehow so that you can prove to a university, this is what I have learned. So I decided to take some time and share what I've learned and try and spread the word, because when I was in college, I would talk to my peers and I would say, hey, did you know, you speak Spanish. Have you taken the CLEP Spanish test? You could earn up to 9 credits. And they'd say, well, what's a CLEP test? I say, what? You could, there's this opportunity there. And then often, colleges will only let you take those kind of tests in your first couple of years. And so if you don't know about it right at the right time, it's
so
not
you can't
as
take
helpful.
them. You couldn't take them later, maybe in year 3 or 4, or that's just not typical.
It just depends on the college. Some colleges are super flexible, and you can transfer CLEP credits at any time, and they'll take almost a whole bachelor's degree worth of, credit by exam testing. Other colleges are super strict. Maybe they'll only accept 10 credit by exam test credits, and maybe they'll only accept it before you've enrolled or before you've taken their elementary courses. So it's very college specific, but usually they put that information in their policies online. So usually if you get in their website, you can figure it out case by case.
Gotcha. So for people listening, I brought Hillary on the show because I think she can provide a valuable perspective for really the other side of the coin here, of the topic we talk about most on the show, which is, should you go to college or not? And for people who've been listening for a long time, most of the time I have people who've dropped out, who've kind of circumvented college in some way. Hillary didn't. She figured out a way to earn her degree and complete college, but in a very time-effective and money-efficient way. And so you've heard me say it before, I'll say it again, there are people that should go to college where the degree still holds a lot of value, and it really depends on what you want to do in life. But for those people, I've noticed that there's not a whole lot of resources out there to do it right, because I imagine you still want to save as much money as possible. Maybe you don't want to spend 4 years and $100,000 earning this degree, but you need the degree. So that's what Hillary's here for. And so I know one of those methods is clepping. So Hillary, I wonder if you can explain, just like I'm 5 years old, basically, what clepping is, why it's important, and how people can start to do that.
Oh, I'd love to. So CLEP is a test, a brand of tests, plural. There's 33 right now. And they're created by the College Board, same company that creates the SAT. So these tests help you demonstrate your college level skills, and then you send that test. That test is recognized by 2,900 colleges and universities in America. And you can send that test, those test scores, to any of those colleges, and they'll say, yes, okay, we recognize that you've earned, or your education is equivalent to this level of a college class. So it's the same idea as testing out of a course, or challenging a course. So same idea, only it's just been standardized at a national level.
I see. So it would be like if I took a college class on marketing. So I dropped out when I was taking a class on marketing. But say if it was kind of like clepping, the idea is that maybe I would just be able to, I start the class, I find out a little bit about what it's about, and be like, I know all this stuff. I did marketing for like 3 years, worked for this firm, so I'm just going to take the final, because that's really what, you just go through all the material you've learned so far that year. And if I pass the final, then basically I don't have to spend all the time taking the class. Is that kind of the concept, we're talking about?
Exactly. And that's a good point, because sometimes people, when I would tell them how I earned my degree, they would say, oh, you took online classes. And there's a difference there. And the main difference is that the student becomes the one to direct the learning. They take on the teacher role almost. So
yes.
The student is in charge of scheduling when they take the test. The student is in charge of finding a relevant textbook. If say you didn't have that marketing experience, say you needed to learn that course, well, the resources are out there for sure. So you're in charge of figuring out. Fortunately, CLEP, you're not in the dark. CLEP gives you a test syllabus, and they give you bullet points of, 60% of the test will be on this point, and 40% will be on this. And so you can go and find a textbook or free resources online, open courseware that we have on the internet. Find whatever you need to help you learn those concepts, and then, there's practice tests as well. So that is the difference right there from taking a credit by exam test, is that, the burden is on you to basically set up whatever learning you need to be able to pass that test, versus the online course, you have an instructor and they're laying out the course for you.
Right. Okay. So I freaking love that, because that's all we talk about here on the show is it's so important to learn how to learn, learn how to be self-directed, and basically an autodidact, I think is what you call it.
Yes.
A self-teacher essentially. And so it's great to hear that you don't have to drop out to kind of get out of this system and take charge of your own life. You can do that within the formal education system and earn your degree for $10,000. And it's so funny. I remember when you were just talking about the process for studying for CLEP and stuff, it jogged my memory. I remember after I dropped out, my parents were still like, but you should probably get a degree. And so then we found out about this thing called CLEPing. And I remember getting a couple of the study guides. Yeah. And that just didn't last very long. I dropped that pretty quick and decided, well, no college, period. But I was telling you earlier that what I know at least my older sister did, and kind of a mix. She did a running program called Running Start, and then also CLEPed. And so she has her master's degree, and she was able to earn that, a lot faster and cheaper than most people. But Hillary, before we got started, you were telling me how, you're not technically a dropout, but you felt like you went through a lot of the same kind of emotions and processes of
Yes.
being a dropout, because you did take a different path. And so I'm curious, I just want to hear your story, from the moment you maybe you graduated high school and discovered this, and how you went about pursuing it, and what that was like talking to your family, friends, and just doing things differently within the system. Oh,
yeah. Well, my first kind of inkling that this even existed was not until I was a junior in high school. And actually, family that my family is friends with, they had gone to a homeschool conference, and they had gotten to meet Brad Voller. And they picked up a copy of his book, Accelerated Distance Learning. And he talked about how you could basically take your knowledge and credential it so that you could earn credit. Mm-hmm. And so their family started taking a couple CLEP tests. And so at the time, I'm a junior in high school, and my mom's telling me and explaining this method to me and encouraging me to read the book, which I did. And I was kind of so about it, because I didn't really want to take more tests, and right. I didn't feel like that I was maybe ready to start tackling college level material. I felt like my high school courses were keeping me plenty busy, and so I just wasn't sure that it was a good idea to blend. And I was still at that point very excited to go on the campus and leave home and become independent. And so that college dream was really strong. So watching our friends, though, take a couple of CLEP tests, and kind of got me thinking, well, maybe I'd like to have a few college credits to go into college with. I mean, we started talking with other parents, and they're like, oh, my child has earned, almost a whole year of credit already in high school. And I thought, okay, I want to try this. So I began to study, and I think I took 2 CLEP tests in high school, and I liked it because I could continue using some of my high school textbooks and then just supplement whatever I needed to learn beyond that. And I didn't realize that there was so much crossover between those last couple years in high school and the first couple years in college. And so much of that can be, you can do it like
combined.
You were saying earlier. Yeah, your sister was able to do some of that too and graduate high school with her associate. So, which is so smart to take advantage of that time. So after I had kind of gotten a little dry run in high school, then when I graduated, I could see that it was going to cost me a lot of money to go on the campus. And what if I wanted to move out? Then I was going to need to pay rent. And what if, what was I going to study? What did I want to do? And since a lot of those, I just wasn't sure. I just decided, you know what, this first year, I'm just going to keep taking CLEP tests because there was a whole bunch that I had some skills in. And so I thought, I'll just take some time, study more deeply and take those CLEP tests. And so I made that decision probably in the summer and so then in the fall, I started to tell people, oh no, I'm going to be at home for my freshman year, and I'm going to take these credit by exam tests and just earn credit through, distance learning. And so some of my friends and family, they thought that I just hadn't made up my mind about where I wanted to go or what I was doing with my life. So, and that was fine. They were patient, sympathetic, but that was a little surprising to me because in my mind, I had considered my options and I had chose.
Well, yeah. Meanwhile, you're like blazing past them at home, credit-wise, and they're taking the slow, expensive route. It's hilarious.
Yeah, it's a deceptive way. It looks like you're, the duck with the pond is serene, but underneath your little webbed feet are going 90 miles an hour.
That's a great analogy. I like that.
So that part was a little frustrating to me that I didn't have like a report card to show them like, yes, I'm enrolled. I could tell them,
oh gosh.
I just, and the other part, another little side note is CLEP exams are pass fail. And so there's no grade. It doesn't matter if you get a perfect score or you just got the passing score, you get the credit. So I had to be careful because I would tell people I just passed. Well, one time in particular, I just passed calculus and I was so happy. And I was with a couple girls and they looked at me and they just looked at me. And I was trying to figure out why they weren't excited. I was like, this is so awesome. And so finally the one girl, she looks over at me and she's like, well, I guess if you passed, that's what's most important. And so I still didn't get it. And then I went home and I was like, oh, they thought I got just a barely passing grade. And they thought I was just over the moon about this passing grade. So I had to really train myself to, word that differently. Maybe not say pass, but maybe say I earned credit for this class or I completed this class.
I see.
Because passing in a graded class is what? Like a D or a C sometimes?
Right, yeah.
And passing in a CLEP could mean, it doesn't have a letter equivalent. So
yeah, it's kind of like life. It's a little more realistic.
Yes.
You either succeed or you fail. Either way, if you're smart, you can learn something.
Yes, right. Even from the failures, it doesn't really matter. Yes.
That's almost where you learn the most.
Yes. Well, and that's the other nice thing about the credit by exam. If you fail, you can retake the test. And the test is only about $100, so it's not like a $1,000 commitment. So I failed. I failed personal finance. And that was a really good learning experience for me because I had not prepared. I had not studied the test outline well enough. I thought, well, I know how to balance a checkbook. I know, basic finance, but it was deeper than that. And so that taught me I need to make sure that for whatever test, I'm prepared.
Now, actually, on that topic, I was curious on that topic of like testing and you mentioned Well, I know how to balance a checkbook. Like I basically know how to live life and how to life pretty much, and how to finance, how to money, because you have to grow up spending it and saving it and earning it and stuff like that. So you feel okay. Well, I'm prepared. But then you got to the test and you realize you hadn't studied to the test, and that's why maybe you didn't fail. So when you did these tests, I'm just curious your thoughts on the school system, and are a lot of the stuff that they present on these tests, is it actually applicable to the real world, or what are your thoughts on that, or was it still a lot of I just got to study to regurgitate the right information and get the right answer? Was it more like that?
I feel like in every test there's definitely a blend. I can remember in particular a few questions that just seem very politically correct or standardized. Mm-hmm. But then I also can remember a lot of questions that were very broad and enriching for the long term beyond the test. So I think one thing that was nice about CLEP is because you didn't know exactly what would be on the test, because that test outline is somewhat broad, I had to study a little wider than that test actually maybe needed to be. And so some of those skills that I would run into when I got off on a little bit of a tangent, because, I liked learning about childhood development, if I got a little bit off of the outline, I feel like that balanced out some of the standardization of the test itself. Mm-hmm. So I think that's one of the nice things, is that there is a little bit of flexibility in how you study for those tests. And so personally, like for psychology, I really wanted a Christian worldview, to be contrasted with a more secular worldview of psychology. So mm-hmm. I was able to, while still learning all the principles required for that test, I was able to get a different textbook and learn how maybe psychology is viewed in that mindset. So
I see. And that wasn't necessarily required for the test, right?
Exactly. Right. So that goes back to the student being the teacher a little bit and choosing to add that in.
So that completely answers my question, because I feel like if you're just following the formal education pipeline, you learn so much theory and you learn things that they're disconnected, out of context. You're just learning a bunch of facts to regurgitate onto a test, and every sane person wants to find meaning, and it's really hard to do that when you're just supposed to memorize a bunch of facts and spit them out. But with CLEPing and stuff, you have the kind of freedom to where, like you're like, I want to contrast this kind of psychology with another psychology and kind of belief system, and you had the freedom and time to do that, which I think is just incredibly valuable. People need to be self-directed and need to go where and do work and study things they love to study that make sense to them and they find meaning in. And you can't do that, at least you only have maybe a few hours in the week to do that if you're just kind of following the formal pipeline. So anyways, that's a bit of a tangent. But
No, I totally understand what you're saying, because when you're in a class, often there's so many projects and so much homework that once you finish that, there's no time to go off and research something else that maybe you found interesting, because you're already so scheduled in. So no, this definitely gave me more flexibility to do that. And then as I went on, I got better at noticing, this is interesting to me. I think I'll take time to do that. So I got better at the self-directed part. That's really the biggest thing I got out of doing my college degree. And I'm positive that it did not need to be the college degree for me to learn that skill, but because I didn't have an entrepreneurial goal coming out of high school, setting the goal of earning a degree efficiently and not going into debt to do it, that gave me the opportunity to learn those, learning how to learn skills.
Yeah, and you know what? Maybe you didn't have an entrepreneurial goal, but you were most certainly entrepreneurial minded. And I think people sometimes compartmentalize those two things too much. They think if you're an entrepreneur, you have to have a business, or you have to be Steve Jobs or something like that. No, more importantly is the mindset of an entrepreneur, and it includes being self-directed, taking initiative, and just taking charge of your life, your education, your destiny, which is what you did. Which I would argue is it's like the skill that will make you the most successful in life and the most fulfilled. And it's very difficult to do that when you're just kind of letting people and people that are more quote unquote credentialed or have more authority than you just teach at you. It's very hard to cultivate that kind of mindset.
Yes.
And so continue on with your story then. So you kind of got in, you're CLEPing, you passed calculus, you're talking with your friends and family, and yeah, continue on there.
Okay. So as I continued on, I did get better at sharing it with other people, and that made my college experience a lot more fun, to be able to communicate what I was learning and explain it to other people, so that they didn't just think I was sitting at home all day, every day, just doing nothing or something that wouldn't help me in the long run, I think. And in the end, we know that the only reason they're concerned is they just want the best for me. So it was so nice to be able to get that dialogue going again once I learned, not to say past. And So got better at that. And then it came time to choose a college, because there are 3 big schools here in the United States that, and I don't mean big in size. I mean they're big in the distance learning community, because they will accept a large number of credits that you transfer in. So, a lot of colleges have a cap on, like I already said, credit by exam testing, but also they can cap community college credits or credits that are, a certain age, maybe, 20 years old or something like that. So these 3 colleges, Thomas Edison State University, Charter Oak, and the third one is escaping me. Excelsior College.
Okay.
They will accept almost an entire bachelor's degree transferred in from your credits from a wide variety of sources, and then usually they'll have you take a capstone course from them to kind of finish your degree. So I had these 3 colleges in mind, and so I started kind of narrowing it down on what degree I would want to do, and which degree would cost more money to complete, depending on how many courses I would need to take as an online class, things like that. And so that was difficult because, again, I wasn't sure. I knew I wanted to earn the bachelor's degree so that if I came across a job that I needed the bachelor's degree, I would have that. And that was my mindset at that point in time. That was just really important. So once I kind of started narrowing it down, and I decided to go with Thomas Edison State University, and they're in Trenton, New Jersey. And so then I chose the social sciences major so that I could study history and then a little bit of economics and a little psychology for my upper level courses. And I really enjoyed the history courses. And people ask, what will you do with history? And for me, it was a chance to learn about history so that I can hopefully learn from people's mistakes and not repeat history.
Yeah.
And so that...
Yeah, I love history for those reasons, yep.
So that was my focus for the last year, was those courses. And I really enjoyed that. And then it was tough, though. I was so glad to have all the preparation of the years before on learning how to write an essay, learning how to study independently, take good notes, work with people if I had a question, a stumbling block, how to get help, and then how to be a part of the community as well. And that may be a whole another little topic we could discuss, is the socialization aspect of doing college this way. That was definitely a concern. or a concern that I hear about. Let's say that. So putting all those skills into use in that last year, that's how that year went, and final push, and then graduated. And I decided I could have gone back and done the ceremony back in New Jersey, but I decided to save the money and celebrate here instead. So they sent me my diploma, and that was my degree journey right there.
Huh. So how long total did it take you to earn that then?
It took me 4 years, and I was really hoping to do it in 3. And my sister, she is 3 years younger than me, and so she was able to do hers in 3 years, and she took CLEP tests in her senior year of high school, and so completed her freshman year of college during that time. So It's definitely very doable to shorten your degree even to 2 years. The author of Accelerated Distance Learning, he did his bachelor's degree in 6 months. So, anything's possible there. Yeah.
Jeez. Okay. So you earned yours in 4 years, about $10,000. Your sister 3 years.
Yes.
Maybe around $10,000.
Yes, I think she had took a few more online courses, so she was under 15,000, so somewhere like 14 something.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it is possible to even do it with 2 years.
Yes.
And still probably 15,000 and under. Mm-hmm. What for the degree you got? If you hadn't have CLEP'd, how long and how much money do you think it would have taken if you hadn't gone that route?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I suppose it would just depend on how many courses I took at, say, a local community college, or how long if I took the courses at online. I probably it would just depend on what my per credit cost would be, and then. Mm-hmm. So that is a good question. I'm not sure how much. I know like an average. I'm trying to think of like the average costs. I have it in my book, but I don't have it on the top of my head. So
I think last I looked, I feel like the average student graduates with about $30,000 of student debt, and then the average time I think it takes is actually like 5 to 6 years. Is like the across the board average that it takes people to finish their degree.
That sounds right.
But even if you do it correctly, even if you go kind of just the standard route, so we're talking maybe 4 years, and maybe you graduate with maybe around $30,000. You're talking about that versus 2 years and maybe $15,000, and that is a possibility. So. Mm-hmm. For anybody who's wanting to, not just kind of get on with life faster, but also cultivate these skills of kind of more self-development, self-teaching, and just save time and money, that seems like a great option. And so, and then in your book, I haven't had a chance to go through it like thoroughly, but do you kind of line for anybody who's interested in this? Is that just the best resource for them to kind of line out kind of step by step what it takes to accomplish that? Oh yeah, I hope that it would give the students that direction, because that's definitely why I wrote it. And so I do try and lay out how to take a CLEP test, how to prepare, how to choose a college, how to find a mentor support system, how do you make sure that your college is accredited so that you're not just ordering that $99.99 diploma off the internet. Yeah. So differences of, in accreditation. And so yes, definitely that is the goal of my book. Another book that's good if you're a high school student or you're a parent of a high school student is Homeschooling for College Credit by Jennifer Cook DeRosa. And she really talks about how you can blend your high school curriculum, if you're homeschooling, blend that high school curriculum with the intent of earning college credit. So that's another resource as well. Perfect. Okay, so we'll have a link to that and your book as well, College Without the Campus. in the show notes, and that those seem like they would be the best place for you to start if that's something you're interested in.
Yes.
I'm curious right now. Tell us a little bit about the Etsy shop and your family's business and how you're involved there.
Oh, sure. So my Etsy shop is called Ringberries, and I started it in 2012. And I started out selling beaded jewelry because I love seed beads. I enjoyed beading since I was little. And so I thought, well, wouldn't this be fun to try shipping my creations out across the world? And so I got it set up, learned how to take pictures, product pictures, how to write the description, how to work with the Etsy, I want to say format, but that's not the right word.
Just on their platform, basically?
Platform, that's it. Thank you.
That's
the Etsy platform. Yeah. And so got started there. Then that didn't sell very well. And I wanted to make sure that my prices were high enough to make it worth my time to bead these things, because it's definitely kind of labor intensive. So they weren't selling. And so I use these Velux bead mats, and so they're a piece of fabric with little fibers on each side that catch your beads if you spill beads.
Oh, okay.
And so if you're working with little seed beads and they try and run away, this fabric will just stop them. So for a laugh, I decided to put one of these rectangles of Velux fabric on my website and sell on the Etsy website. And that has been my best-selling product. So
really?
I've transitioned away from the handmade jewelry into selling supplies. And Etsy has been great for the supplies because not only are you selling to buyers, but you also can sell to the other Etsy shop owners. So I've really enjoyed that platform.
Was this something that like other beader, I don't know what to call beaders.
Yeah, beaders, yeah.
Yeah.
That's it, yeah.
Was this a tool that like other people would use, or was it something that you used, and then like actually, it was your idea? Or?
No, not my idea. I had seen it on a forum, a beading or a crafting forum, and I thought it was too good to be true, and I thought there's no way just a piece of fabric would help that much, because these crafters were going on and on about it. So I tried it, and it really did work. So then there's definitely a few other sellers on Etsy selling these bead mats. And so I've enjoyed seeing how different sizes people really like the larger bead mats. That's been a little bit more of my specialty. And that's been good training for me on how to assess the market and see what's missing there and maybe tweak my product, which we're all selling the same fabric, but how can I tweak mine to make it a little more individualized, appropriate?
How can you differentiate? That's neat.
There you go, yeah.
So then what do you do in your family's business then?
My family's business, they typically just wear whatever hat is needed. My mom takes care of most of the bookwork, and my dad is the troubleshooter, technician, house calls guy. So for me, I help with our computers. Anything weird happens with the computers, I'm the one to fix it. And then proofreading invoices, office work, cooking meals, anything, running parts, going and getting parts, that sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Neat. What do you see yourself being more entrepreneurial in the sense of like starting your own business, in the future, or what do you kind of have in mind for your future?
I'm kind of at a crossroads right now. The average shelf life of the average book is 3 years, and so I've kind of committed myself to promoting my book, and then after that, or within that, I would love to work on investing maybe in like rentals or trying to learn that sort of thing. So that's definitely one idea. So I am kind of in a state of being a little open for some different ideas with a few small projects all on the burners right now. So I don't have any big new business ideas at the moment.
Yeah. What do you think? Let's kind of move on to more of the entrepreneurial lightning round here.
Okay.
What do you think you would tell your 18-year-old self, kind of in regards to, your future and career and schooling and stuff? Looking back, what would you tell your younger self? What encouragement or advice would you give?
Yeah. I would say that I would really just try and be an encouragement to myself. One thing that I thought of is each experience throughout life is going to change who I am, or maybe help me down the road, even if right now it doesn't bring me any closer to, say, a degree or a certificate or any outward success. A lot of times those little experiences, like for me, that's taking that first CLEP test, which I didn't want to do, and which was a pain, that set me on a path of getting my degree without being in debt. So I would just encourage myself to not be afraid to try some of these things that aren't immediately successful. So not be afraid to step out of the path that everyone's taking and try a few things. And then also to, not be afraid to, if it's not working, to stop and say, okay, that isn't going to work, and let's change course. One thing that really helped me during college was taking it a year at a time. And so every year I would with my family reevaluate, is this still working for me to be living at home? Is this still working to do credit by exam testing? What am I learning? Let's make sure that this is still productive. And so but then that also kept the commitment and the focus to a specific amount of time for that 1 year, which it's not quite as overwhelming as, say, how's this going to affect me in the next 10 years, which is such a big span of time that nobody can know exactly how the next 10 years will go. So taking it a year at a time is one thing that has really helped me.
Yeah, man, I was actually reading some of my old journals yesterday from when I did more journaling than I do now, back when I was 18, 19 years old. And it was every other entry had something to do with what am I doing with my life? I thought I was, I was so sure about this one track and I was going to be this and do that. I wanted to be a professional musician for the longest time. And that's all I did was play music. And then I talked to my buddy and he sparked this interest in enlisting in the military and all this stuff, which I eventually did, anyways. But I was so in this journal entry, I was I thought I had it all figured out. And then I had this one conversation and it's just rocked the boat, and now I kind of want to do this other thing. Is dang it. And I remember taking it so seriously because there's so much pressure at that age. I don't know where that comes, just maybe from society, to have your life figured out at 18 years old. And you're just not going to. And a few of you people listening have emailed me on the show with the same kind of questions, and you're taking it so seriously when you're 18, 19, 20 years old. The decisions I make now are permanent for the rest of my life. And I just don't think that's the case. And I think, like you said, Hillary, you just need to, what do you want to do right now, today, or for the next month, pick something, start doing it. And then every 3 months, every quarter, every 6 months, every year, maybe sit down, hopefully maybe with your parents or friends would be ideal, and evaluate and just talk about it. Is this something I still want to do? Do I still really enjoy this? And do I like the direction I'm heading? And if not, then pick something else. It's this analogy of the donkey who's standing between water and hay and can't decide which one he wants, so he dies of both thirst and starvation. You can walk over and eat the hay and then walk over and drink the water. And that's something that's really important to remember, I think. And your advice, of course, about just not being afraid, try new things, take risks, and just don't worry so much. I think is
Yes, yes.
key.
Oh, yeah, that's cool that you were able to pivot from what your original dream and what you really thought, and then you had the willingness to try something different. What do you think, though, gave you the confidence to be able to totally shift and at that age? Because I think that's really the confidence to do it, or the support is sometimes hard.
That's an extremely good question, actually. And I don't know if I have a straight. I mean, I know a lot of it was the way I was brought up, and I had the kind of parents and friends and support system that allowed me to do that. But I'm trying to think of an answer for maybe somebody who doesn't have that. And actually, I would just say that I say a lot. The 5 people you hang around the most is kind of, you tend to be the average of those people, and people seem to equate that most to like. So that means I have to like be best friends with them and see them physically all the time and just kind of like you are maybe with your friends right now. Or they think of a mentor, and a mentor is somebody you have to sit down with every week and talk to over coffee or something. But what I don't think people realize is that even listening to a podcast like this, listening to somebody like yourself, Hillary, and reading books by certain authors, those people can be your mentors and your circle of friends just as much as, the friends you live in the same town as or your family. And so I would say maybe just keep listening to stuff like this and surrounding yourself with material, and really have to brainwash yourself in a certain aspect. And then you just have to trust when somebody like Hillary and I say, don't worry so much, just, take that risk. It's never going to be as bad as you think. And you just have to trust that. It's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. The things people regret most in life are typically the things that they didn't do, And so that's what I would say. I don't know. Do you have anything to add to that too?
No. Oh, I mean, I come from a similar point with you. My parents gave me a lot of encouragement in that area to try, take a risk and try it, and that if it didn't work out, it wasn't the end of the world. And so I like what you're reminding us, though, too. It's not just your 5 physical friends in the location you are, but the 5 influences that you have in your life, like whether it's a podcast or a website, or that's definitely, I've seen that. I've seen a difference. I mean, that's why I love to read, is because that book can definitely change you just from reading that. So that's neat. That's neat that your parents helped you to make that change. And
I just know not everybody has parents like that. And I think at that point, we just had a guy named Tam Pham on the show. He was a few episodes a few weeks ago, and he was like, I was mentored by, how to get mentored by like Tony Robbins and Elon Musk and all these big names. I was like, so how'd you do that? And he's like, well, simple. I read all their material, and I take what they have to say seriously. And it's like, yeah, it's a great concept. You don't literally have to sit down to coffee with them or something like that once a week. Pay them for their time, because most likely they would tell you the same things that they write in their books, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say, find the kind of person you want to be like and the kind of worldview that fits best with yourself, and just really, ingest as much as you can. And just trust us when we say to just, there's nothing on the other side of fear, and just don't waste time worrying.
Yes.
Tim Ferriss. Are you familiar with Tim Ferriss at all?
I don't think so. No.
I'm sure a lot of people listening are, and he's got a popular podcast. He interviews a lot of really high achieving and successful and inspiring people, and he just distilled all those interviews in a book. And he asks that question a lot: what would you tell your younger self? And I haven't found a time yet where they haven't said, I would tell myself just not to be so scared and not to stop worrying. And this is from people that are, 25 talking to their 18-year-old self, 30 talking to their 20-year-old self, 60 talking to their 40-year-old self. And so, anyways, we got off on a bit of a tangent there, but all good stuff. So in editing this episode, something still kind of bothered me about my answer to Hillary's question when she asked, what gave you the confidence and the support to make the kinds of decisions you did and take those risks and really find out what it is you love to do and not be, afraid of failure at such a young age. And I feel like I covered the support part well. It's all about the people you surround yourself with, your friends and your family, and then also, your mentors, and the fact that a mentor doesn't have to be somebody you pay or go to coffee with. It can be just somebody who you follow, you read all of their material, and you adopt their worldview. But it's the confidence part, what gave me the confidence to do those things. I feel like that answer was missing from this episode as I was editing it. And I realized, it was two things. And the first thing was I had a very strong core belief that I am 100% responsible for my decisions in life and for my circumstances in life, that at any given point, my current circumstances were a direct result of my decision. And I realize that that's technically not always the case. There's definitely some uncontrollable circumstances that you just have no control over, no matter what you do. But to still have that point of view, it's called taking extreme ownership over your life. To still have that point of view in spite of even those uncontrollable circumstances is such a powerful thing. Because it puts the power in your hands, honestly. You're not relying on anybody else to make you happy or to get you what you want out of life. You're relying on yourself and your abilities and your decisions and the actions you take and don't take. And we can talk about spirituality and, if there's room in there for a God or a spiritual, being that kind of guides you and gives you purpose. But at the end of the day, a core belief of mine is that if God exists, God helps those who help themselves. And so that ability as a human being to be autonomous, to have agency, to be able to say, this is what I want out of life and I'm going to go get it. And if I'm unhappy right now, I choose to be that way. If I'm not where I want to be right now, I chose to do that, and I can choose differently and achieve all of my goals and dreams. And it's nobody else's responsibility but mine. Having that kind of mentality is what gave me the confidence to do things and take risks, because I realized if I don't do this, if I don't take this risk and just find out if this is a good thing, then nobody else is going to do it for me. Nobody owes me anything. And that gave me so much purpose and meaning in life. It really gave me the confidence to do that. And the second thing that I think gave me that confidence was the fact that if you look back on your life, typically all the things that you were most afraid to do, the things that you had the most resistance towards doing, were the things that turned out to be the best things that you did. Some of the best experiences you'll ever have in life are the things that you were once afraid to do. And so for me, it was that core belief of leaning into your fears and leaning into resistance, and that you can use fear and resistance as kind of a barometer and a compass, where at any point in your life, if you're feeling just a little bit of fear, you're probably doing what you're supposed to be doing. And if you're totally comfortable, it might mean that you have to, look at your compass again. The fear, it always points to true north. It should always point to what is best for you to do. And so if at any point you look up and you are following fear, if you are, you check this barometer and you feel fear around you, you're probably living the best version of your life. You're probably becoming the best version of yourself. So I just wanted to clarify that. I typically try not to talk as much in these episodes. It's all about the guest, and Hillary is amazing. But I think she's one of the first guests that's ever asked me a question on my own show, and it caught me off guard, and I didn't feel like I answered it quite well, and I wanted to. And so, but let's go back to the interview now. Hillary, what's a personal habit that contributes to your success or the success you've achieved thus far?
I would have to say organizing. It's partly because I enjoy it, but keeping my files and priorities and things in my living area organized really helps me be more productive and not focus so much on stuff and refocus on what are my really top goals. So keeping organized really helps me to move forward, keep keep moving forward, because a lot of times if I let stuff clutter up, I won't remember what I really wanted to do and what was really important to me. So yeah, so Marie Kondo's book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up, that was a great book.
Okay.
If you want a little boost of organizational help, that decluttering part kind of goes in tandem with the organizing, because when I have had less stuff, it's easier to keep it organized. So I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
A mentorship.
We'll put that.
Marie
Absolutely,
Kondo.
we'll put that book in the show notes. I can just tell too. You people listening can't see, but I can tell. I can see kind of the corner of the room there, and it looks very neat and organized. Like you have two little pictures there between the door frame and the window frame, and they're like perfectly proportioned and centered. Kudos on that. I could probably get a little better.
Oh, it looks good. Looks good on your end.
What's a quality that you have that you would consider essential to being an entrepreneur?
Oh, well, one thing that growing up I was really instilled in is if you say yes to something, stick with it and finish it. And there, of course, are always exceptions. But as a general rule, that stick-to-itiveness, I would say that has served me well. And it helps me remember to say no if I'm not going to be able to commit to something fully. And which is always a hard choice. But I've been so thankful that, it does enable me to, when I do say yes, then I can fulfill those requirements. And I'm learning now, though, a little bit more on how to not get stuck on if I've committed to say I started a different Etsy business and then I decided this is too much. I can't do 2 shops, or this isn't working, to say it's okay to close this. That's not a violation of that, sticking to it. So I would say in most cases to give it a real good shot and commit, but then not be afraid to say, oh, okay, I need to make a change.
What do you think are, because it's a very interesting subject, what do you think are the actual mechanisms, or not mechanisms, but benchmarks or measurements maybe that you have to take that would help you decide when you should quit something? Because quitting can be, most people I think tend to look at that negatively. Oh, they quit this or that. They don't have that stick-to-itiveness, and but quitting can also be a really good thing if you're quitting a bad thing.
Yeah.
Say smoking, for instance. And so I wonder, what in your opinion, what measurements should be there to where, I don't know, when it's a good thing to quit something?
Yeah. That's a really good thought, because I know when I was finishing writing my book, and that took that was about, from starting to write to publishing, was 4 years. So when I was in that 4th year, there was times I was super grumpy and was not enthused, because it was really hard and I hadn't done it before. Being grumpy couldn't be a benchmark to quitting. I was going to say something about like your personal health. How do you feel about this? So feelings can't be a solid benchmark, because there's just going to be days that it's going to be no fun. So if it's not feelings, I think stress level can be an indicator of if something is going, because I don't think it's good to be under stress and I'm talking about over a long period of time, because daily stress,
not like for the day.
Yeah. So check in, how's my stress level? Relationships. I guess if you're killing off all of your relationships because of this goal, maybe that's not worth it. Sometimes maybe it is. But so I'm thinking stress level, relationships, although it could just be a sign you need different relationships. Can you
too.
think of any other benchmarks?
Well, no, I think you're right on it. I think what all those things have in common is just the length of time that they're happening. I think maybe when you get up for too many days in a row and you look in the mirror and you're just like, I hate what I'm doing. I'm not looking forward to what I'm going to be doing. I'm stressed. I'm losing my relationships and I don't feel very fulfilled personally. I think when that happens too many days in a row, maybe it's time to make a change and do something else. I just remember growing up when I would want some new toy, right? And my parents were pretty good about teaching me, like, just to be financially responsible and budget and save money and stuff. When you're a kid, just every toy at Toys R Us, you just want to buy the store, right?
Yes.
And so when I would want something, if it was a bigger purchase, I remember they would make me wait for 30 days. And I would patiently count down those days. And if I still wanted it at the end of those 30 days, they would, either buy it for me or allow me to spend my money on something like that. And I feel like that principle might just apply here. Just give it some time, because I think, like you said, every endeavor has a process that you have to go through, and that process is going to include fun times and bad times, ups and downs and stresses, and you just got to get through it. But I think if things are just bad and terrible and you hate what you're doing for too many days in a row, maybe it is time to make a change. And I think it's always heroic to quit a bad thing. Yes. So quitting can be both positive and negative, but
I like that. I love that strategy of the waiting 30 days for a toy. That is what good skills to teach your young child, and then also it could be used for older people as well. But it's that delay of gratification, and then it makes it really worth it. It has a value. That goal, that toy has a value.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yep. I remember what I was gonna ask you, because you mentioned earlier the socialization aspect of doing what you did. Before we end, I actually want you to go into that a little bit, because that, I think you're right. That's one of the number one kind of objections of people observing other people kind of do something different or even like drop out. Is like, well, how are you going to build your network? How are you going to socialize with people and stuff like that? So maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
Oh, I'd love to. Yes, that word network, finding your group of people that can support you. Without college, we don't have as much of a path for that. Mm-hmm. So in my walk, I definitely pulled from mentors and books and online. There's a couple active forums of distance learners, degreeforum.net and degree info.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
And lots of people on there every day and encouraging each other. And so there's other people out there to definitely connect with off the campus. And then I think the involvement in your community can also be a place to build a network. And again, the student is in charge of those interactions. The student will probably have to go find a professor and say, hey, I would like to take you to coffee and I'd like to discuss this, or would you have time to do that with me, or go attend some community event and try and build those relationships. So I think that there's plenty of opportunities for students that are not on the campus, but the burden is on the student to create those opportunities. And
you know what? That burden you're talking about and stuff, that's called adulting.
Yeah.
That's what life is.
Yeah.
Guys, I mean, if you're hearing somebody complain, well, if you don't go to school, you're not gonna, socialize, you're gonna become this hermit, or you're not gonna build this network that's so important to you. You gotta take some extreme ownership. I mean, that's up to you. And honestly, school, college, and even high school, those years of your life are the only years in your life where you're going to be grouped according to your age and abilities like that. Maybe until you're in a nursing home. But that's the only time that happens. And again, that's another reason why formal schooling is just so different from what actual real life is like. Because when you get out in the real world, you're associating with people, like with peers and people a lot older and younger than you. And so you might as well start that process now, because that's called living in the real world and adulting. I don't know how else to put it.
Yeah, definitely. It definitely trains you for after college, when you do have to, you're expected to have these skills to communicate and to make opportunities happen. And so if you're practicing them earlier, the better, because people are more, they'll forgive you if you make a mistake. It's okay to just try and reach out and make new connections and see how, maybe I find I like one-on-one coffee meetups better. Maybe I find I like group meetings with other students, like set up a study group. And like you say, that the opportunity to have the multi-age groups is amazing, because I've learned so much from people that are younger than me and maybe don't have some of the cares and worries that I've accumulated, but then I find so much advice and inspiration from my grandparents, and then other people that are older than me. So I definitely think that multi-ages is amazing.
Yep, it's a big wide world out there, folks. Get out there and broaden your perspective.
Yes even if it's just asking somebody to coffee, it can start there.
Totally. Okay, well, we're getting close on time here, but for people listening, if you are at all interested in this kind of route, if you think college is for you, but you still want to be actually smart about the kind of time and money you spend there, go pick up Hillary's book, College Without the Campus, because that's just a great place to start. Hillary, what's the best way that people can connect with you, actually, if they've got questions and want to talk to you personally?
Well, I'd love it if they wanted to check out my website, which is hillaryharshman.com, or I'm also on Instagram, and they can even just send me an email at hillaryharshman@gmail.com. So that's probably any of those ways, yeah.
Awesome. It's pronounced Harshman.
Yes.
Not Hirschman. Okay.
That's all right.
I think I pronounced it Hirschman at the beginning of the show.
Oh, that's okay.
Oh, funny. Well, successful dropouts, you've been hanging out with Hillary Harshman and Kylan, learning what it takes to drop out, grind, and succeed. And remember, you're the average of the 5 people you hang around the most. For everything we talked about today, head over to successfuldropout.com and type Hillary into the search bar, and the show notes will pop right up. And as always, stay hungry, stay foolish.